Alright YouTube, so I hope you enjoyed that short edit from a drink shoot that I did a while ago. Let's jump straight into Premiere Pro and see how I did it. So as you can see, I've already got the finished sequence set up on my timeline here. The first thing I should say is I wanted this piece to be really fun and vibrant and emotive, which is why it's so saturated. The sound design was really important for that emotive piece so that it feels like you're experiencing the splash of the ice and the fruit and all of that sort of thing. Let's have a look at the actual sequence. Now here you can see I've got everything colour-coded. It might look a bit terrifying, but I'll try and explain it all. So basically here in the teal colour, you've got all of the sound effects. The music track here is green, and each of the individual drinks are colour-coded. So basically here you've got the brown drink, which is the sort of chocolatey coffee drink. Here you've got this one, which I've colour-coded blue, I think probably because it's got blueberries in it. This one, it's sort of the colour of the drink, and this one, again, I sort of went with what the colour of the drink is. So that should be all fairly self-explanatory. The reason I've got the music track right at the top is because that was the first thing I did, was choose a music track. The music track for this sort of edit is so important. And so I put it right at the top so that when I'm editing to the beat, I try to edit to the beat as much as possible. When I'm editing to the beat, it's really easy to see on the waveform where the beats are coming. Then what I did was I went through all of my rushes, chose all of my favourite bits and started editing them to the beat of the music, and then chose some bits that I really wanted to play around with the rhythm, which is where the split screens and the jump cuts came in, things like that. So why don't we go through from the start to the finish, and I'll talk through each bit. I should say, this isn't a step-by-step tutorial as to how I did every single element of this. It's more just an overview so you can get a flavour for what I did in the edit. So I started with just one solitary shot, and I wanted to do that because I knew it was going to get more hectic and chaotic throughout the piece. So I started with just one solo shot, and I liked starting with this one because of the colour contrast, and I think it's probably the best looking drink out of all of them, so I wanted to start with a strong shot. Then to the rhythm of the music here, I've gone into a split screen effect. Now let's just make this a little bit bigger, these two tracks here, because what you can see is that it's a nested sequence. So let's jump into that nest and see what it's done. So basically I've got two split screens going on, one top and bottom and one left and right. And again, that's done to the music. Then moving on to this bit, this is actually quite a cool effect that my friend Benji thought of, where basically we didn't do anything with the drinks, we're just moving the lights. So he's literally got a light in his hand and is waving it above the drinks. And it created this cool effect that you can see here as the light changes on the drinks itself. And again, that's cut to the rhythm of the music. Then simple shot of the fruit dropping into the glass there. And then this again is all cut to the music. And here I did a sort of double edit of the ice going in twice, cut to the music, the strawberry going in, and then it's not just a repeat of the same shot again. I actually dragged it a bit further forward, so what you're seeing in this one happens a bit later than what you're seeing in this one. If you just repeated it, you don't see as much action, so there you can see you're getting a bit of the splash. Whereas this one at the end, you're not getting the splash, and that just creates a bit more interest. And although it's really fleeting, the eye does register it. Then moving on to this one, again, to keep it a bit more interesting, originally I did just have this clip for the whole length of this bit, but I thought it was a bit more interesting to do a jump cut from the milk pouring to the effect that the milk has as the drink starts to change colour, and I really like that effect of the drink changing colour. I think that's really interesting. I also think it gives it a bit of a journey. So rather than just milk pouring into the glass, you've got the effect of the milk pouring into the glass as well. Nice simple shot there of the raspberry dropping in. This bit I quite like because, again, I wanted to make it just more interesting than just one single shot of an ice cube going in. So I decided to do another split screen effect here, which again, I've nested that. So let's jump in and have a look at what I've done here. So basically, each one of these is one of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're just layered on top of each other. And then what I've done here is duplicated those clips and reversed them. So you get this sort of boomerang effect. Then going back into the main edit, we're already 6 seconds in, so we're pretty much halfway through. Now this is one of my favourite bits of this whole edit. So here you've got the fruit being thrown up. Now what you can see happening here, this is the first speed ramp that I've done in the edit. So it starts off fast, and then as the fruit enters the shot, I've slowed it down so that the viewer can appreciate the fruit being caught in shot there. Then I've jumped to a different shot of the fruit coming in and replayed it there, replayed it there, replayed it there, and then lengthened it out there with a whoosh sound effect underneath. And basically what that gives you is this. And I like that because it's all in time to the music and it gives it a sort of energetic feel, which I really like. Moving on to this next bit, this was by far the hardest bit of the edit to do because of the timing of the music. Let's just have a look at this little bit so that we can get into some detail as to what I actually did. So, this bit here was the really complicated bit because I had to edit all of that to the rhythm of the music, and finding those beats was really intricate and complex. That probably took me the longest out of everything to do. The reason I like this section is because it gives you the overview in the wide shot, and then you jump into the detail of the close-up of the coffee beans dropping. I just also really love the shot of the coffee beans dropping. It's just really extravagant and I like it. Then, because that bit was so chaotic and hectic, I slowed it down with a couple of simple shots here. Simple, just ice dropping into a glass, and then a little speed ramp. I quite like this one. On this pink clip here, I've got a little speed ramp as the liquid pours in, and then I slow it down just as it starts to change colour, and so that you can appreciate a bit of the fizz that's happening in the glass. So that goes back to slow motion. There, all of this is shot at 120 frames, and then I've sped some of it up and kept some of it the same. Then, to build up to the final shot, which is a 4-way split screen, I've done another speed ramp here, just of a single glass coming towards camera, and I quite like that single glass just coming towards camera, because I think it gives it a bit of a build. It feels like something's going to happen, it just gives it some momentum. So it speed ramps, and then it slows as the drink starts to pour out of the glass, and then we finish on this simple split screen of what we're calling the pack shots of all 4 drinks, but with a little bit of sizzle added to them. We did pack shots with just the drinks on their own, and they were fine, but I prefer these pack shots with the sizzle in because I just think it gives it a bit more energy. It's a bit more interesting. So that's basically how I did the visual edit. I've got the grade up here on this top level. And again, like I said, I wanted it to feel really saturated and vibrant. So I've basically used a lot of saturation and contrast. And the reason I've colour graded this one in Premiere rather than DaVinci Resolve, which is what I normally do, is because this is for a social edit. So I didn't really feel that it warranted taking it into DaVinci Resolve to edit it. And I could achieve what I wanted to do in Premiere. So that felt absolutely fine to do it in Premiere. So let's move on to the sound design, which is a really important element to this piece. I feel like the sound design just lifts it up from being a relatively normal edit into something a bit more exciting and a bit more engaging. So I should say I get all of my sound effects and music for this one from Envato Elements. I really like Envato. It's got a big library of video, it's got After Effects templates, sound effects, music, photos, and the subscription is relatively cheap, so I quite like it. And for this one, it was perfect. So let's get into what I actually did with the sound design. So I started off quite simply before it got too busy, I started off here with 2 simple whooshes. Let's make these tracks a bit bigger so that we can see what's going on. So here we've got 2 simple whooshes just to get us into the edit, and then here is where the fruit starts dropping. So basically with most of these, what I've done is added a little bit of reverb. I've slowed some of them down to match the slow motion. I may have changed the pitch on some of them. It just makes it feel more like it's there. Now these sound effects of fruit dropping aren't actually fruit dropping, but the beautiful thing about sound effects is you can find something that sounds like it, and when you drop it in and match it to the visuals, it feels like that's what's happening. So these are just objects being dropped into water, but it feels like it's fruit being dropped into water. And then again, these are just sound effects of ice being dropped into a glass. Some of them was just ice in a glass without any liquid in it, but there's liquid in this one, so I've dropped another liquid sound effect underneath it so that you've got both the ice and the liquid. Here, more fruit. This one I quite liked doing. It was quite interesting because originally I had a hard cut here to match the visuals of the milk pouring, but that didn't work. It felt too unnatural and it felt quite sudden, so I've just done a simple fade there, so it just fades out underneath the other clip, and that felt much more natural to me. There again, simply just sound effect of the fruit being dropped in with a little water splash. Here I've got the ice being dropped into the glass with a little splash underneath it as well. But for this nested sequence, I decided not to put any sound effects under that. Because the visuals are so busy, I decided to make the sound effects less busy. So I dropped the sound effects out here and then brought them back in for this one, again with the ice dropping and a splash underneath it, and that worked really well for me. Here, this is quite nice. Again, because the visuals are quite busy, I just did 2 simple whooshes. One to emphasise the fruit coming in for the first time, and another one to emphasise it coming in for the last time. This bit was good to do because the visuals are so busy here, and originally I tried cutting up this sound effect. It's literally a sound effect of coffee beans being dropped, so that's perfect for this. Originally I cut it up to match all of the different cuts, but that felt too busy, and because the visuals are so busy, I just decided to have one simple sound effect running underneath it all, and that worked really well. Then here we've got the sound effect of hands going through gravel. So what I did with that was I took the pitch down so it wasn't so top end, and I slowed it down a little bit to give it a little bit more of that slow motion feel, add a little bit of reverb, and that sounds like coffee beans going through someone's hand. So that's good. Here, simple ice going into a glass. This one was quite fun to do, so I've got a sound effect of a fizzy drink being poured. So because this clip is speed ramped, I speed ramped the audio as well. So it's fast at the beginning as the liquid is being poured, and then it slows down for the fizz sound effect, and I found that quite immersive. I felt like I was there. This one is the sound effect of a glass being slid over a table, which is exactly what you're seeing. I sped it up a little bit because the sound effect was a bit longer than the visuals, so I sped it up and added some reverb and took the pitch down so that it matched the visuals a bit more. This one, relatively simple. I've got the sound effects of what's happening in all 4. So I've got the coffee beans dropping, ice dropping, fruit dropping, all of that stuff. But rather than just play them all out underneath each other, it felt a bit better to cut them up so that the ice and the fruit aren't dropping at the same time necessarily. That just makes the sound a little bit more interesting if you stagger it out just that little bit. And that's it. That's basically what I did for this edit. I will say, when we were on set, the 2 most important elements in that shoot, for me, were the set design and the lighting. The set design, we spent ages on. You can see, if you freeze frame it and have a look at some of those shots, that everything that is on set is relevant to those drinks. So the colours feel right, the content feels right, and for the lighting, we changed every single setup so that it all felt different. So some of it feels like a bar, some of it feels like it's summery, some could be at home, and that again just makes it more interesting visually when you're cutting between those drinks. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learnt something from my editing process for this one. If you've got any questions, please hit me up in the comments. If you liked this video, then please give me a like or subscribe. I always appreciate that. And I hope to see you in the next one.